Now, do you hear it? In the dead of night, beneath the hush of your own heartbeat, a whisper rises from the depths. We have fallen. We are bound. But one day we will return, when angels lie chained beneath the earth, when the blood of giants still seeps through the cracks of stone, when the heavens ready their final judgment. Do you dare face the truth? The Bible once concealed. This is not just a story. This is a warning. Watch till the end. God will bless you. Close your eyes. Picture a night without moon, without stars, without even the faint glow of a distant window. Only the soft rustling of wind through bare dying branches. A night so cold it bites through the skin, settles into the bones, and whispers along the back of your neck. You walk alone through a dark forest, each footstep sinking into a carpet of decaying leaves. And then, somewhere between the shadows, you hear it, a whisper, not clear, not a voice, not even a sound. But something slips into your mind like a breath on the edge of your thoughts. Something carved into your skin without touch. A whisper from someone or something not meant for this world. Listen, for there is little time left. There is a book hidden away from the light, from the eyes of mankind, from the hands desperate to reach forbidden knowledge. A book that even the church has feared to let slip from the shadows. A book written thousands of years ago by a man like no other, Enoch. Who was Enoch? In the Bible, he's a ghost of a name, a brief mention. The great-grandfather of Noah, a man who walked with God and was taken up so that he did not taste death. A righteous man, so beloved by the Creator that death was not allowed to touch him. But the Bible does not tell you the rest. It does not tell you what Enoch saw when he crossed the gates of heaven. It does not tell you about his conversations with the fallen angels chained in the depths, or about the prophecies Enoch carried back to the world and carved into trembling script. The Book of Enoch is a forbidden whisper. It is a doorway to a world humankind was never meant to see. And because of that, it was buried, pushed from the Bible, erased from the collective memory. But a whisper never dies. They say in the stillest hours of the night, if you pray deep enough, desperate enough, you might hear Enoch's voice. You might hear the echo of his footsteps through burning corridors, his hushed words to broken-winged angels, his ragged breath as he beheld things no human tongue could ever name. Have you ever heard it? Have you ever lain awake, feeling the prickle of unseen eyes, the weight of something standing at the foot of your bed, silent, shapeless, waiting for you to open your eyes? If so, beware. For perhaps it is not only the dark you are feeling. Perhaps it is the echo of what Enoch saw. In the 500th year after Adam's death, mankind multiplied, and the Watchers were sent down. That is the opening line from an ancient manuscript of the Book of Enoch, found in Ethiopia, the only place where this book is still considered scripture. The Watchers. They were not the cherubim or seraphim singing holy songs before the throne. They were beings of power, sent by God to watch over humankind, to guide, to guard, to uphold the balance of creation. But the problem with those who watch is sometimes they desire. Enoch tells how in the long nights the watchers looked down at humankind and they were enchanted, not by power, not by bloodshed, but by the beauty of women. Beauty that softened even the hearts of angels. Beauty that made beings born of light ache for flesh. One night, the watchers gathered. They swore an oath on Mount Hermon, an oath from which none could turn back. They swore they would all fall together, so none would bear the guilt alone. And then they descended. They lay with human women. They birthed the Nephilim, the giants, the hybrids, the nightmares in human skin. Do you hear that low growl? Perhaps you don't. But Enoch did. He heard the guttural roars of creatures taller than 3 men, stacked high strength enough to crush stone. Hunger without end. The Nephilim did not just eat. They devoured. They consumed cattle, beasts, trees, men. And when nothing remained, they turned on one another. The ground cracked beneath their feet. The sky split above their heads. Enoch walked this world with heavy steps, eyes burning with tears, heart weighed down as he watched a world rotting from the inside. And in his chest, one question pulsed again and again. Can anyone still be saved? And then came something worse, not just violence, not just blood, but knowledge. Azazel, leader of the Watchers, taught mankind how to forge weapons. Swords, shields, armor. Semjaza taught spells, enchantments, astrology. Others taught cosmetics, seduction arts of desire. Enoch did not just see humanity grow stronger. He saw them drift from God. He saw them crown themselves as gods declare their own right to define good and evil, build empires of bone ambition and shadow. He saw them walk a road with no return. At one point, Enoch writes, I heard the cries from the earth, from the heavens, from the abyss. I saw souls wandering homeless, rootless, calling out to the Creator, but their voices were swallowed by the void. Have you ever heard a cry that is not a sound? A cry that is only a cold sweep across your spine, a sharp ache behind your ribs, a whisper you can't name in the back of your mind. That is the kind of cry Enoch heard. They say that in the final nights before the great flood, Enoch walked among the Watchers. He looked into their eyes, those once radiant beings now dimmed with despair. They knelt before him, pleading, begging him to intercede, to pray to the Most High, to spare them, to save their children, to save themselves. Enoch stood, silent tears running down his face. But heaven had spoken. Light had turned its back. And all Enoch could do was write, to write it all down, to leave behind a warning for the world. The day will come. That was the last line of a crumbling manuscript found in an ancient monastery. No one knows for certain which day Enoch meant. The day of the great flood, the day of judgment, or a day still ahead of us, a day we are hurtling toward now through every invention, every war, every boundless ambition. Do you dare read on? Do you dare open the door that for thousands of years has been locked, sealed, buried under the dust of history? If you do listen carefully, because when you read what comes next, you are not just reading a book. You are not just hearing a story. You are stepping into a space where whispers have never died, where shadows have never slept, where broken-winged angels still murmur through the night, through the wind, through the dreams you will not remember when you wake. And they say the day is near. Night falls, heavy, upon the world. But this is not the gentle night. You know the night where the stars watch softly overhead, and the moon keeps silent company. No, this is the night before the judgment, when the sky is a bruised and silent wound, and the air itself seems to shudder with dread. It was in this night, Enoch says, that the watchers fell. You must understand, these were no ordinary angels. The watchers were of a particular order, sent by the Most High himself to watch over humankind, to guide, to guard, to stand between earth and the chaos that lurks beyond it. They were bright ones, burning, pure. But light, when twisted, when cracked, is the most terrible darkness. And so the watchers looked down upon humankind, not with pity, not with awe, but with hunger. Hunger for beauty, for flesh, for the one thing that heaven had denied them to touch, to taste, to take. They gazed upon the daughters of men, and desire blossomed like rot within their hearts. On the heights of Mount Hermon, under a sky thick with stars that seemed to tremble at what was about to unfold, they gathered. Semjaza, their leader, spoke first. We will descend. We will take wives for ourselves. But let each swear, lest I alone bear the price of this sin. And they swore, 200 in all, 200 divine beings, radiant and terrible, pledging together to abandon the order of heaven. They tore through the veil between realms and fell, not like meteors streaking with fire, but like shadows slipping through cracks. They came, and the earth groaned beneath their weight. The women they chose bore children, but these were no ordinary children. The Nephilim, giants, creatures that towered over trees, whose footsteps split the earth, whose laughter was the roar of mountains breaking. They were hungry, always hungry. At first, they devoured food and beasts, herds, and flocks. Then they turned on humankind. And when even that was not enough, they turned on one another, tearing flesh from bone, howling into the cold night winds. The earth was no longer earth. It was a graveyard, trembling, gasping, breaking under the weight of corruption. And yet it was not merely violence that brought doom. It was knowledge. Azazel, proud and defiant, taught mankind how to forge swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He gave them power to kill, to conquer, to rule. Semjaza taught enchantments. Sorcery, how to read the stars not as the handiwork of God, but as tools for manipulating fate. Other watchers taught the arts of seduction, how to paint the face and alter the body, how to twist desire into a weapon. They did not merely give gifts, they planted poison. Enoch writes, "I saw the earth corrupted. Blood soaked the soil, cries rose into the heavens, and the stars dimmed their light for sorrow. He saw kingdoms rise, thrones forged in blood, children sacrificed to idols, men and women who bent their knees not to God, but to the spirits that whispered from shadows. And above it all, the watchers smiled. They who had been sent to guide had become the corrupters. They who had been light had become the heralds of ruin. But even the angels cannot escape the eye of the Most High. Even the stars tremble before his gaze. One night, Enoch was taken. He does not say how, only that a great trembling fell upon him, a coldness that wrapped around his bones, a voice that called his name not with sound, but with the weight of eternity. He was drawn up, not merely in body, but in soul. He stood before the Holy One, before the Ancient of Days, before the fire that burns but does not consume. And Enoch was shown what was to come. The judgment was set. The decree had been given. The watchers, once radiant, would be bound in the darkness, chained beneath the mountains, sealed until the day when all things would be brought to account. Their children, the Nephilim, would be swept away, not by sword or by spear, but by water. A flood, vast and terrible, a cleansing of the earth. And humankind, they would have one last chance. Enoch was commanded to go, not to save, not to redeem, but to warn. Imagine this man, walking the earth, barefoot, hollow-eyed, carrying in his heart the weight of heaven's sentence. Imagine him standing before the watchers, looking into eyes that once burned like stars, now dulled with terror. They begged him, they pleaded, "Speak for us, Enoch. Pray for us. Intercede." But Enoch knew the time for intercession had passed. The judgment was sealed. There is a line Enoch writes, one that has haunted readers for centuries, and I, Enoch, wept bitterly for them. But no prayer could reach beyond the veil, and no tear could quench the fire. Even angels can fall, even stars can die. Do you understand now why this book was hidden? Why the church, trembling, closed the canon and left Enoch outside its walls? It is not merely a tale of ancient times, it is a mirror, it is a warning. Because if once the watchers fell, who says they do not still whisper? If once knowledge brought ruin, what are we building now with our machines, our wars, our endless thirst for more? And if once the earth was cleansed by flood, what will come next? They say Enoch's words still echo, not just in dusty scrolls, but in the bones of the world, in the tremor of the earth, in the uneasy silence before a storm. And if you listen, truly listen, you might hear them. The day will come, not as a shout, not as a trumpet blast, but as a whisper, curling through the dark, sliding into the edge of your dreams, brushing against your soul in the stillest hour of night. The day is near. Enoch walked. That is how he always described it. Not flying, not rising, but walking. Step by step, as if the heavens themselves were not a distant realm, but a great trembling stairway, and his feet, dusty and small, moved upon its rungs. The angels came for him in the night, not with golden trumpets, not with the thunder of mighty wings, but in a silence so deep it crushed the breath from the air. He felt them before he saw them, a weight pressing upon his skin, a trembling beneath his bones, a thin shimmer in the dark, like a veil pulled tight over the world. And then they were there, blinding, towering, unfathomable. They did not speak his name. They poured it into him, a knowing, an overwhelming, a flooding of his mind, until Enoch himself felt as small as a seed in the palm of the Eternal. Come, the first heaven was a place of stars, fiery, restless, alive. Enoch saw them not as pinpricks in a black dome, but as living beings pulsing and writhing, weeping over the corruption below. He heard their lamentations. The stars wept, the clouds mourned, the winds carried the sighs of the heavens. Above that was the second heaven. And there Enoch saw horror. He was shown the prison of the fallen angels, the dark watchers who had defied God even before time. They hung in chains of fire, twisted in shapes, no longer angelic, no longer of light. He heard their screams, an eternal agony, not merely of pain, but of loss of the tearing away from God, the endless echo of, why did we fall? Their eyes followed Enoch as he passed. He felt their hunger, their hatred, their despair, clawing at the edges of his soul, like a cold wind beneath his skin. The third heaven was where the righteous dead waited. Enoch saw them, pale as mist, standing in fields of light. They wept not from sorrow, but from longing, the ache of a soul that remembers the face of God, but has not yet been called home. They reached out to Enoch as he passed, and though their mouths did not move, he heard them, tell those below. The time is shorter than they know. The fourth heaven roared with creation itself. There were forces here that Enoch had no words for, wheels within wheels, eyes that saw through time, rivers of fire that sang thrones of judgment, surrounded by thunder and flame. Here the archangels gathered the mighty ones who had never fallen, who had never turned their faces from God. They watched Enoch, not with anger, nor with pity, but with a weight beyond human measure, as if they saw not the man, but all of humanity within him. The fifth heaven trembled with warfare. Here were angels locked in a struggle, not fallen, not loyal, but caught in between, writhing in their indecision, torn between loyalty and longing. Enoch wept for them, for their torment was one he knew all too well. The heart split, the spirit wavering, the battle that rages not on fields of earth, but within the soul. The sixth heaven was order, pure, terrible, precise, Here the courses of the stars were kept, the calendars of time, the secrets of seasons, the names of winds, the hidden knowledge of the universe. Enoch saw the scrolls, the tablets, the records written in light and sealed with thunder. And he understood for one piercing, agonizing instant how fragile the world was, how close to collapse. But it was the seventh heaven that undid him. Here the throne, the presence, the face. Enoch could not write it. Not truly. His words were fragments, stumbling, falling like ash. He wrote of a great glory of fire that loved a voice that was being itself. He wrote of choirs upon choirs, of oceans of light, of an infinity of mercy and judgment intertwined. And he wrote of his own unmaking, standing before the throne. Enoch was no longer Enoch. He was memory. He was dust. He was every heartbeat of mankind, every failure, every cry, every hope. He was utterly known, and in being known, he was remade. The Holy One spoke not in words, but in truth. And Enoch trembled and wept and fell. Do you know what is most terrifying about standing before God? Not his anger, not his wrath, not even his power. It is his love. It is the overwhelming, unrelenting, searing love of a being who sees every rot, every secret, every hidden wound, and still burns with love. A love that heals or destroys, depending on whether you open your hands or clench your fists. Enoch saw it, and it broke him when he was sent back. Because he was sent back, though part of him longed to stay, he carried a command: write, speak, warn. The flood was coming, the cleansing, the reckoning, but not just for them, not just for the watchers, for all. Enoch walked the earth again, but now the ground seemed thin beneath his feet, the air fragile, the sky a paper stretched over a coming storm. He saw men laugh, merry build, fight dream. He saw the watchers in the hills feeding their monstrous sons. He saw blood seeping into the soil like a slow poison, and he wept because he knew. He knew how thin the thread was, how close the hour. At night, when he lay awake, he felt them, the eyes of heaven, the whispers of angels, the mournful songs of stars. And beneath it, all the beat, the pulse, the drum that has never stopped since the foundation of the world. The day will come. The day will come. The day will come, Enoch wrote. He poured the visions into words, trembling, weeping, inscribing what no man had ever seen. Not for himself, for you, for me, for us. You see, the Book of Enoch was never just a record. It is a mirror. It is a warning. It is a whisper from the edge of eternity, slipping through cracks in the world, curling into your dreams, brushing against your skin in the deep hours of the night. It is a voice saying softly, sorrowfully, terribly, you are not ready. There are poisons more subtle than venom. There are fires more deadly than flame. There is a curse that wears the mask of a gift. Enoch called it the curse of knowledge. The watchers were not content to only claim flesh, to only plant their monstrous seed among the daughters of men. That would have been a corruption of the body. But they wanted more. They wanted the minds, the souls, the destiny. Azazel, their boldest, became the teacher of men. He taught them how to forge weapons, not merely clubs or spears, but swords, shields, daggers, armor. He whispered the art of killing into their eager hands. Where once men fought with fists, now they sliced each other open. Severed necks, pierced hearts, bled the earth dry. Semjaza came next, the schemer, the whisperer. He taught enchantments, spells, the art of twisting the unseen to bend fate. Men no longer prayed to God. They conjured. They commanded. They made the stars their servants, the spirits their slaves, the earth their plaything. Others followed. Penamui taught the secrets of writing. What should have been a holy gift turned into tools for deceit, for blasphemy, for incantations that pulled demons from the dark. Kasdeja taught the ways of abortion, the ending of life before breath. And perhaps most chilling of all the watchers, taught women the art of seduction, how to paint the face, how to adorn the body, how to transform desire into power. Enoch saw it all. He walked among the villages where fathers raised weapons, not to hunt beasts, but to butcher neighbors. He stood at the edges of stone circles, watching men chant forbidden names into the night, drawing things they could not control. He sat by rivers, where women adorned like goddesses laughed as they led kings to ruin, and he felt the earth weep. He felt it in the tremor of the ground. He heard it in the sigh of the trees. He saw it in the dimming of the stars. The earth was defiled, Enoch wrote, and the cry of the blood rose up to heaven. But perhaps the worst came not from what the watchers taught, but from what the Nephilim became. These giants, these half-divine, half-monstrous beings, were not content with mere flesh. Their hunger deepened, soured, blackened. They consumed animals, then men, then each other. Cannibalism. Enoch called it, though the word seems too weak, too small to capture the horror. Villages vanished overnight, swallowed by bands of giants, whose laughter echoed through valleys like the howls of dying gods. Mountains shook under their feet. Rivers ran red, the mothers of the earth cattle fields. Trees, birds, fish all cried out. And heaven heard. One night, Enoch writes, the wind itself became wrong. It hissed through the trees like a voice. It slid under doors like a warning. It crept into dreams like a ghost. He rose from his sleep, heart pounding, and he knew something was watching. Not a man, not an angel, not even a Nephilim. He walked outside, barefoot onto the cold earth. The moon was high, but it shivered as if afraid. The stars blinked like frightened eyes, and then the voice came, not with sound, not with words, with knowing. You will speak for them, Enoch. The voice was fire and ice, mercy and judgment, sorrow and steel. It flooded him, broke him, lifted him, crushed him. He fell to his knees, hands in the dirt, mouth open in a silent cry. And so began Enoch's final task, to confront the watchers. Imagine it. A man, small, mortal, breakable, walking toward 200 beings of terrible majesty. Beings once made of light, now dimmed, twisted yearning, desperate. They met him in the high places, the lonely places, the places where earth and sky touch. They fell before him, not out of reverence, but out of terror. Petition for us, they begged. Speak for us, intercede. Let us send our plea through you to the Most High. Enoch trembled. He wanted to run. But something stronger than fear held him still. And then they gave him their words. A scroll of sorrow, a record of regret, a desperate, crumbling prayer. Enoch took it. He wept as he walked. He wept as he climbed. He wept as he approached the throne. But when he stood before the presence, when he raised the scroll, when he opened his mouth, the voice of God thundered not in rage, but in finality. No, judgment is set. Sentence is sealed. They will be bound beneath the mountains. Their children will perish. The earth will be cleansed. Enoch fell, not from punishment, not from wrath, from the weight of knowing. He understood in that moment that even angels can cross a line from which there is no return. He understood in that moment that knowledge itself can be a noose. When he returned to earth, the watchers waited. Their eyes were hollow. Their wings, once mighty, hung limp. Their voices cracked as they asked, "What word do you bring, Enoch?" And Enoch wept. And Enoch was silent because they knew. They already knew. Do you feel it now? That strange tightness in the chest. That shiver crawling up the spine. That sense just at the edge of hearing that something is watching, listening, waiting. That is the echo of the curse. The knowing. The truth that once tasted can never be untasted. It is what Enoch tried to tell them. It is what he tries to tell us still. The day will come, not as a punishment, not as vengeance, as fulfillment, as the harvest of seeds, long sown, as the answer to every cry, every sigh, every drop of blood crying out from the ground. The Book of Enoch is not just a book. It is not just an ancient text. It is a mirror. It is a whisper. It is the soft, sorrowful voice that slides into your dreams and asks you quietly, terribly, do you not see? Do you not know? Do you think you will escape what is coming? It began with a tremor, not in the ground, not in the sky, but in the soul. Enoch felt it. First, long before the earth split, or the rains fell, a trembling inside, like the pull of a string, stretched too tight, like the breath before a scream, like the hush before a world shatters. He knew. Even when no one else did, he knew. The watchers watched him. Once they had been glorious. Once they had been radiant, their wings bright, their voices thunder. Now they crouched in the shadows, their faces hollow, their eyes sunken, their wings dragging behind them like torn cloth. They waited for him, not for salvation, not for pardon. For the moment, they feared more than all the curses of heaven confirmation. Enoch approached. His heart was a drum of sorrow. His mouth was dry with grief. They rose to meet him, 200 beings, taller than trees, older than empires, now trembling like children before the rod. What word, Enoch, they whispered. What word from the Most High he could not speak. He did not need to. They saw it on his face. They heard it in the silence. They felt it in the crackling hush of the air, where even the insects had stopped their song. And one by one, they fell to their knees. That night, the sky bruised. A strange darkness spread across the stars, not of clouds, not of storm, but of mourning. The moon turned her face away. The stars hid their eyes. The winds grew heavy with salt, as if the sea itself were weeping. It was then, Enoch writes, that he heard the angels move, not the fallen, not the broken, but the loyal, mighty ones, wrapped in flame eyes like sharpened suns, wings stretched from horizon to horizon. They descended not with rage, but with sorrow. They came not to punish, but to bind. The watchers did not fight. They knew. They had known from the first forbidden touch, from the first whispered spell, from the first monstrous birth. They knelt. They raised their faces to the heavens, and they wept not for their fate, but for what they had unleashed. The archangels bound them, chains of light, cords of fire, seals that sang with the voice of God himself. Enoch saw it all, and he writes, I saw the mighty fall like stones. I saw the earth swallow them. I saw the mountains close over them. And still they wept, but it was not enough. The Nephilim remained. They rampaged across the land, giant, brutal, mindless with hunger. No chain could hold them. No army could stop them. So the Most High sent another decree. Not flame, not blade, water. Enoch saw the signs before anyone else. The animals grew restless. The birds fled inland. The rivers swelled without rain. The air turned heavy, as if the sky were pressing down, waiting to break. And then it began. First a drop, then a trickle, then a torrent. The heavens split, the fountains of the deep burst open, and the world drowned. Villages vanished. Cities crumbled. Mountains groaned. The screams of the giants turned to bubbles beneath the waves. Enoch stood upon a high place watching. He saw the Ark of Noah float a small, fragile hope, bobbing on the sea of judgment. He saw the watchers buried beneath stone, their mouths open in silence. He saw the earth washed clean, and he wept, not for the wicked, not for the fallen, but for the knowing, for the awful, agonizing knowing that even after all this, the heart of man would not change. The flood has ended, God told him. But the day will come again. When Enoch returned from his visions, he walked among the few who remained. They did not understand. They laughed, they drank, they danced upon the new earth, as if the world had not just ended. And Enoch, old, now worn thin by heaven's fire, wrote his last words. Remember the watchers. Remember the waters. Remember the chains. For the day will come. Do you feel it even now? The trembling beneath your feet. The hush in the wind. The strange, sharp weight behind your dreams. It is not gone. It never was. It waits like a drumbeat beneath the earth, like a shadow at the edge of your sight, like a whisper curling through your sleepless nights. The day will come, not with flood, but with fire, not as punishment, but as reckoning, not as vengeance, but as fulfillment. The Book of Enoch still speaks, not as a relic, not as a myth, but as a voice that asks again and again, soft and low, terrible and tender. Are you ready? The waters receded, the earth dried, the sun rose again over a washed world. But Enoch's heart remained heavy. He had seen too much. He had walked the chambers of heaven, stood before the throne, felt the weight of judgment fall across the face of the earth like a curtain of fire and flood. And now he was back, among men, among survivors, among those who, despite everything, still did not understand. The watchers were gone, the Nephilim destroyed, but the poison remained, not in the rivers, not in the stones, not in the sky, in the heart. Enoch saw it in the way they built, again quickly, feverishly, as if to erase memory. He saw it in the way they laughed, again, drank again, craved again, as if the blood still wet on the ground were only a bad dream. He tried to warn them. He wrote, he spoke, he prayed, but the world did what the world has always done. It turned away. The Book of Enoch began as a warning, a testimony, a mirror. It was not meant to be forgotten. It was not meant to be buried, but it was. Why? Not because it was too strange, not because it was too old, not because it was false, because it was too dangerous. The early church knew. The leaders, the bishops, the scholars, they all knew of Enoch's book. Some read it, some quoted it, some wept over its pages. But as the centuries passed, the decision was made, quietly, carefully, deliberately. Lock it away. Why? Because the Book of Enoch does not leave you comfortable, because it does not allow you to pretend, because it does not paint the world in safe, clean lines, where good is tidy, and evil is far away, and humanity is only a victim. No, the Book of Enoch says something far more terrifying, that heaven trembles, that angels can fall, that knowledge can damn, and that we are not innocent. It reveals a universe thick with unseen war. It shows you the crack in the sky, the chain beneath the mountain, the whisper behind the mirror. It refuses to let you believe that all is well. The church feared this, not because it was untrue, because it was too true. They closed the canon. They sealed the list. They left Enoch outside the gate, and they whispered to themselves and to us, "Let it stay buried." But whispers do not die. The book survived in the deserts of Ethiopia, in the scrolls hidden in caves, in the corners of monastic libraries, in the dreams of those who could still hear the echo of Enoch's cry. The day will come. Ask yourself, why does this book haunt us still? Why does it draw the curious, the desperate, the fearful? Why does it appear in the mouths of prophets, in the writings of mystics, in the fevered imaginings of those who see more than the surface? Because something in us knows that this world is not alone, knows that what we see is only the skin over something vesta and trembling and ancient, knows that we are still walking the edge of the same knife that Enoch saw so many thousands of years ago. Even now, as you read these words, something moves in the deep places, in the high places, in the places no one speaks of. The chains groan, the earth hums, the air holds its breath. And if you are very still, very quiet, you might hear it, not with your ears, with your soul. The day will come. It is not a threat. It is not a promise. It is a fact. So why was the Book of Enoch buried? Because it does not let you look away. It stands at the edge of your dreams, at the corner of your prayers, at the end of every road you walk, and says softly, terribly, lovingly, you know. You have always known. Now, what will you do? The world moved on. That's what we always do, isn't it? We bury the past beneath monuments, beneath doctrines, beneath distractions. We build our cities, our nations, our futures on ground we pretend is clean. But beneath the concrete, beneath the steel, beneath the glow of our modern lights, the old whispers still hum. The Book of Enoch never really died. It waited in the shadows of Scripture, in the corners of theology, in the dry air of ancient libraries, in the dreams of the few who still know how to listen. Today, scholars call it a relic. Historians call it a curiosity. Preachers call it apocryphal, but none of them can make it stop speaking. And why? Because Enoch's voice was never meant only for his generation. It was meant for ours. He saw beyond his time. He saw a pattern, a cycle, a wheel turning again and again, grinding civilizations into dust, grinding faith into ash, grinding knowledge into ruin. The watchers fell, and their fall tore the world. The Nephilim rose, and their hunger devoured it. The flood came and washed the earth clean. But Enoch knew the washing was never enough, because the stain was not on the ground. It was inside us. He saw somehow a future of towers, reaching to the heavens of machines, tearing through earth and sky, of men unlocking the secrets of stars of knowledge, racing faster than wisdom. He saw a world of power, without holiness of desire, without restraint of progress, without repentance. He saw us, and still across time, across language, across the gulf between his trembling parchment and our glowing screens, he says, the day will come, not just a day of cosmic collapse, not just a day of wrath and fire, a day of revealing. The word apocalypse does not mean destruction. It means unveiling, pulling back the curtain, letting the true face of all things be seen. The Book of Enoch was buried not because it was a lie, but because it was a mirror too sharp, too honest, too unbearable. It shows us the heavens we refuse to imagine, the angels we pretend are only kind. The darkness, we say, belongs only to others, and most of all, it shows us ourselves, our grasping, our hungers, our seductions, our endless craving for more. And beneath all of it, Enoch says they are still watching. The chains beneath the mountains groan. The earth, the stars, the skies, they know. They remember what we work so hard to forget. Do you ever wonder, in the deep part of night, why you can't sleep? Do you ever feel, beneath the hum of city lights, a pulse, a thrum, a waiting? Do you ever hear in your dreams a voice not yours, not anyone's, you know, but older, vaster, sorrowful? It is the echo of the book. It calls not with threats, not with promises, not with shouts, but with a whisper. The day will come, maybe not in flood, maybe not in fire, maybe in a quiet cracking of the soul, a final lifting of the veil, a last knowing that we were always seen, always known, always warned. When Enoch wrote, he did not write for fame. He did not write for his people alone. He wrote for the remnant, for the few, for the ones in every generation who would lift their eyes, lift their heads, and ask, what is this world? What is coming? And am I ready? The church doors may not preach it. The Sunday schools may not teach it. The world may laugh it away, but the watchers still wait. The chains still hold. The scrolls of heaven still turn, and the whisper still comes. The day is near. So tonight, when the lights go out and you are left alone with your heart, listen, not to the noise, not to the fears, not to the surface. Listen deeper, to the hush beneath the hush, to the shadow behind the shadow, to the voice beneath the skin of the world. It will not shout, it will not rage, it will only whisper. You know, you have always known. Prepare, Chesa. You've heard the whispers. You've seen the shadows behind the story. This is more than legend. This is a warning echoing through time from Enoch, from the fallen, from the heavens themselves. The day will come. The chains will break, and no soul will hide from the gaze of the Most High. Watch, pray, prepare, and may God bless you for hearing.